Rob G here, April 1st, 2023. Doing some work on repairing a T28. The bottom formers are damaged around the nose gearbox. This is out of the right-hand side. This is a former off of another airplane, a good piece. The one I'm working on was damaged in this area, so I cut it here. This piece was bad on the other one, so what I'm going to do is fabricate a new piece to match that, and then I'll butt it up against the one that's on the airplane, and then I'm going to make a piece that goes on the inside here to join them both together with rivets, and then the rivets that go into the skin here will go through these pieces and also into the doubler that's going to be on the inside to join them together. So I took some MDF board and cut these form blocks, and these are the same shape as the former, and they drop right in place there. So when you bend this metal, you have to put a radius in it. This is 2024 T3 material. I cut out my piece that I'm going to make the replacement part out of. The grain of the metal is running this way. It comes off of rollers at the factory that it starts out as a thick piece, and then they continuously roll it through rollers and squeeze it down to get the thickness they want. And that puts a grain in the metal, just like the grain in a board of wood. So the grain's running this way. You get a stronger piece if you bend across the grain. So we're going to put our form block on here and bend these flanges up so they look like this. And you have to put a radius in there so the metal doesn't crack. The tighter the radius, the stronger the part is, as long as you don't go on too tight on the radius, and then it has a tendency to crack, and then the part isn't usable. So, but the bigger radius that you put in there, actually the part is not as strong as it is with a tight radius. So the engineers have figured out for the different thicknesses of metal what the best radiuses are, and so I filed that onto the form block here where the metal is going to be bent around it. So you have to cut a form block, and then I'll bend the flanges up around this one, and you have to cut two of them because you have to put a doubler on the back side so that when you put a couple screws in here to hold it together, and then you clamp it in a vise, use C-clamps, whatever, to keep these boards clamped as tight as you can. And then you take a plastic mallet, rubber hammer, whatever, and you gradually bend this flange up around the form block. The outer radius, where you're going around the outside of a curve here, is going to have a lot of extra metal that you're going to have to use a shrinker on, or put flutes in it, or a combination of both, to take up that extra metal. These inside bends, they lay down real nice without any problem, because you're actually shrinking this, but you're stretching this, and these inner ones aren't near as much trouble as the outer ones are. This is T3 material. It's hard. You could make these out of soft and they'd be a lot easier to form, but then you would have to heat treat them, and I don't have that facility close here to do the heat treating, so we're just going to make these out of the T3 material, which is pretty much standard practices out here in the field. These ribs originally were probably made out of O-Soft and then heat treated. But these were hydroformed around blocks when they made them. I'm gonna hammer form around the block here. Okay, I got my metal clamped between the two form blocks, got the form block clamped in the vise. I got bolts, 2 bolts clamping everything together, and then I got clamps here on the ends. You don't want these blocks spreading apart. You can see the radius on the side here where I'm going to bend the metal around this radius. This is the backup block to hold the metal tied up against the form block. If the metal moves away from the form block, then you won't be able to form the part properly. So you got to keep it clamped in there good and tight. So we'll take our trusty mallet here with a rubber end on it and just start gently bringing this metal around the form block. A little bit at a time. If you try to bend too much at once, you just get a big potato chip out of it. Once you get it started, then you want to hit it and drag your hammer toward this direction. You want to bend it to kind of help draw the metal over the block. There's a lot of tension in this metal. As you can see, when I hit it one place, it pops up on the sides of it. So it's got a lot of springiness to it right now. This is that extra metal where it's stretching to go. This is a slight outside curve. So I'll have to put this in a shrinker and shrink this metal a little bit to get it to lay down flat on this form block. So that pretty much has the outside started pretty good, the outside curve here. I'll flip the thing over and do the top, which is an inside curve. Okay, so now I got my part done here. I got my holes laid out in it. I used the fluting pliers to bend these flutes up in between where the rivets go, where the skin will lay flat on where the rivets go in this larger, flatter area. The skin will lay flat on that and rivet down. These flutes took up the excess metal. This thing was bowed quite a bit. Now it lays flat on the table like it should. I didn't have any trouble with this edge, but the outer, I had to shrink it. Anyhow, this piece, I fitted on the plane, and the rib on former on that plane is just slightly different dimension than this one, and it's going to work out to where this will actually sit inside the former that's on the airplane. Now I'll just rivet it here and it'll be good then. I won't have to make a doubler for inside because this actually fits inside the rib that's on the airplane. Very slight difference, manufacturing tolerances or whatever. This is off of a later airplane, so they had a tolerance, and it just so happened that this fits right nice inside the rib that's on the airplane. So I'll go fit it on the plane and you can see how that looks. This was the piece that I removed. It was pretty smashed. I cut it, and then I didn't like the damage that was still on there, so I cut a little bit more out. So I ended up with this section. So we'll see how it fits on the plane now. Okay, so here's the former on the airplane. I got my repair piece here. Put some Clecos in it. So there's the new piece fit into the existing former. So then this one will get spliced here. And this one, and then this one's getting a doubler. Checking my patterns for my other formers. So I made those patterns off of another airplane. So they're the right profiles. Make a few more ribs, get them riveted in there, primed and riveted, and then time to reskin it later.